How we doing, guys? Good. And hello from around the world. I visited with the players today, and I we kind of talked about this is a tough game, and from some of those games, I thought one of the things that you get from that is growth. And in this game, I thought I used a fighting analogy to say in the first quarter, we definitely got knocked on our ass, and all of a sudden you're on the canvas looking up, and the reminder was the fight wasn't over just because you lost the first round. And there's a lot of resiliency that can go with that. And I thought after the first quarter, I thought the players really did a good job making the adjustments on the game plan that we needed to make. Going in with one plan, thinking it was going to be played one way, and to their credit, they came out in a different way. And I thought the players really did a good job of adjusting to that as fast as the first quarter went. I think there was maybe 7 plays and 2 scores, and I think at the half we might have only played about 16 or 17 plays. But from that point on, I really thought the adjustments were made by the guys, the assistants, and the players especially did a good job adjusting. I thought the second half was wild. It was fun. 4-minute, you have to get the ball back or get a stop, and we did. 2-minute, you cannot allow a score. We did that too. And then the overtime, to get a possession and get a stop, that was a big deal because, as you know, on the second possession, the field goal can win. We didn't end up going that route where we scored, but getting a stop on that first possession is a big deal. And so, like I said, it was a tough game, one that you grow from. And I think you have to be in that environment and to be in those kind of fights to know that, okay, we now know we're never out of the fight. And that's a good feeling to have. But you can't just say it. You have to live it, and you have to go through some of those times. And you have to be almost in the environment to prove it. And yesterday, that was the environment you want. There's, 65,000 people there against you, 2:30 left, you're down 1. All of a sudden, then it's like 2:20 and you're up 4. And so those are like very cool moments to be in as a coach and a player. And so it was a wild game and an unusual start for it for sure for us.
And you mentioned the adjustments working well for y'all. How would you describe what adjustments worked and what you needed to do?
I think changing defensive packages, that was a big piece to it. It was certainly one that they hadn't shown a lot of. And they came out. So from a preparation standpoint, we made some changes and adjusted to how they were going to play and the style they were going to go. And to a credit to New England, I've always felt they've done an excellent job at that. And so we had to adjust, and we did.
In the overtime, I think it was on their 3rd and 3. I think you guys do like a cover 0. I could be wrong in that. When do you go call them something like that? Obviously, there's huge risk, huge reward.
Yep.
And just what did you think of how the guys defended it?
Yeah, so on that particular one, we actually it ended up being a cover 0. Sometimes the formation may indicate that or how they play. But I think at that time, you got to go and be bold. It's one that, when you practice it a lot, you're in that moment, you can go do that. So I thought we would execute it at that pot, and we did. But getting a stop in the overtime when they had the possession first, I thought that was a big piece of it. They made a good throw and catch on an earlier play. I think it was might have been J.K. that hit the quarterback and made a good catch. And those were, good battles throughout the game. And I had a sense that third down would come down to a good battle again. And certainly one of our most consistent guys with AB, being out on the outside, played good technique too.
How do you account for, or do you even account for, the kind of run that Trevon's on?
Yeah, I don't know if you could. You certainly can't count on it because if it was, it wouldn't be so rare. So one of the things I really admire. We had a good discussion today. So I'd asked him. I said, "How old were you? 10 or 11 years ago?" And he said, 12 or 13. I said, "Well," I've known you for a long time. And so when I was coaching in college at University of Florida, I was recruiting another player, but I met the head coach, Will Muschamp, at Steph's house. And so who was there was young Trey. As a 13-year-old, I was coaching at Florida, and we were recruiting his brother. And so I thought it was only fitting that he and I would end up together many years later on different paths, but it was destined to be. I said, "You didn't know that," and I was really there recruiting you. No, he did. Yeah, he goes, because I didn't know me then. You were there with Muschamp that night. I said, "Yes." And so we connected about that, and we just had a good time. I'm not answering your question, but it was a good story because I've just followed him. I've known who he was for a long time, so I had special interest in him, and followed his career through Alabama and certainly through the draft process. He was somebody that we followed. But to say you count on it, I wouldn't say that. I'd say just keep pedaling downhill. He's in a good space. He's right where his feet are. I love the accountability that he has. I think you guys probably spoke to him after the game, and he was disappointed on the last play of the game. We were or the last part of the regulation time, and we were in a man-to-man defense, and both he and Kays would be, if you had to, pick a couple of people to play on that kind of, a ball that's, a little bit overthrown, they would be on a list of like 5 guys. They'd be 2 of those 5, and that would come down with the ball. So for that not to happen in that moment was definitely unusual.
Has he joked around with you at all, or brought up you guys not drafting him in Atlanta?
No, he was good. He's a super respectful kid, so he wouldn't. I'm the one that should be bringing that up, so not him.
Was that 75-yard?
Was that 75-yard play? Is that a communication thing between those two? Because both are trying to make a play, and just one guy say, all right, I'll let you do it, I'll stay back, or vice versa?
No, I know how you could think that, but no, there wasn't any miscommunication on it. It was a true man-to-man with a middle field player, and so both of them literally thought they were going to go make the play, and it wasn't a case of I'll take him, you got him. It was just a example of one thought he was going to make it, the other thought they were going to make it. One thought it was going to get overthrown, one undercut it, and it just hit right in the spot. I don't know if we could do it again if we tried. Honestly, it was that unusual of a mishap to go. So that's why I said we're never out of the fight. I was alluding to that earlier, but no, there wasn't a communication error on it. In fact, it's one that we've called plenty of times already, not just in the season. We called it sometimes in that game already. So it wasn't a new call or anything that took extra communication. It was simply a man-to-man defense with a middle field player, and I don't think we could do it again if we tried.
You mentioned Trey being a little bit down about the play. Micah also said he was disappointed with how he played yesterday. How would you assess his game versus the Patriots?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say Micah was. I wouldn't say Trey was down. I think just the accountability for that play for sure, because he made a fantastic play to go in on the score. I thought he had a good hit on a couple other times. So. Sometimes games are just like that, where you're feeling it, you're staying in the moment, but the plays aren't coming to you. And quite honestly, it's one of the things I really respect and admire about Randy so far. So misses the Chargers game, comes back, and I think we played Philadelphia. I think that's who we played his first game back. I thought he was really relentless. He had a couple holding calls. He didn't get to the quarterback, but he caused a number of penalties. In the next game, I think it might have been Carolina, and he had a couple of sacks. And then the next game was, I think, the Giants, and he was still relentless, but didn't have the sacks. And then this game, the same relentless, and had 2 more. So sometimes you can go to try to chase something and maybe do something out of character, or let me try something different because I'm not getting it. But I thought over the last month, he's been so consistently relentless and staying in the approach of doing what he's doing. I think it's a good example for all the players. Like, some days it just doesn't come your way by the nature of the call or the scheme they're using, but if you stay consistent, you stay relentless, you have opportunities when they come. And I think that's one thing I think Randy has really learned through the course of this season. Just stay consistent in your approach, man, and good things will happen, and he's really done that.
The games, when they run a game, Dan, how many times is that up to them? They decide what game to run on their own?
I would say there's a game plan, that goes within the week, and then they execute that in the game, and oftentimes we may make a call, and then if they think it's a pass, okay, I've got the information, a stance, a formation, then they can turn it into a game. So I would say when they call it on the field, I would bet that's probably 80% of the time. And if there's some predetermined ones, then it would come in with the call or from the sideline. So I would say 7 or 8 out of 10 times it would be on their own.
Dan, how diligent is Trey on with film study and preparation? Because he told us after the game on the pick 6, it was something he saw in film,
right.
Double slant on the front side there.
And to his credit, he didn't get a lot of practice reps this past week, with his ankle. So he was able to do a good bit of the work on Friday and a good bit Saturday, but on Wednesday and Thursday, not so much. So a lot of that has to come into that film study. It's one of the positions that can be challenging because you're studying one player so many times. We move him quite a bit, so he'll have to study this player and this player and this player based on where he may align. And so it takes some extra work on his end, but no, it doesn't surprise me to hear that.
Randy Gregory seemed like he was pretty fired up, angry, if you will, by some of the holding and some of the stuff they were doing, and then he ends up getting the sack. It just seemed like he was playing really well like that. What's the balance, and do you ever have to talk to a player like, hey, try and keep it, tone it down, or do you like seeing that?
I like seeing it. Yeah, I want to be right at the edge of the aggressive nature, and I'm really impressed with him, the way that he's gone about it. You don't want to cross it and lose your poise. You don't want to cross it and maybe get out of your game, if that makes sense. Like, I'm going to go try to do something because of this or that. And so I think staying really consistent in your approach is not an easy thing to learn. And but I thought for him, the last 4 weeks have certainly proven that he's able to stay in the process, and that's a really important part of him playing well. And I think he's captured that.
What is your thought process or game plan for Donovan Wilson just coming back off the injury and wanting to get him some reps?
Yeah, for sure. He's such an impactful guy. It's the speed, the explosion. So for us, coming into the first game, we had, kind of a number that we would be comfortable with him missing the last, 4 games or so. So we kind of were taking him up to a certain spot. So we knew it was going to be a little bit here, a little bit, and then we'll just keep adding to that as we're going. But I was pumped to see him back. And, man, you felt his energy and his toughness to go.
It's a good problem to have, but with 4 safeties, with as much talent as experience as they have, how do you juggle those roles?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a good thing. And we've fortunately been able to navigate that, and knowing that we're just going to try to find the strengths of what everybody does and how we can utilize them. Not every situation's played exactly the same. Not every personnel group's played exactly the same. And we'll kind of be into that same space at the defensive line here, hopefully before too long. There's some other guys that we know are on the way back, and Lawrence and Armstrong and Gallimore and Tristan. So those are 4 more to put back into a big rotation. Sooner, than later. But as you go through it, it takes communication for sure, and then finding roles to make sure, hey, everybody wants, a part of the game plan to own, and that'll certainly be, as a coach, one problem I'd take every day of the week.
What was the thought process and how you used Micah on Sunday? It looked like he started outside backer. I don't know if he played it more than the Mike.
Well, we referred to that earlier. We did start with him in an outside backer spot based on the packages that we, were anticipating getting. And I thought after the first quarter, we really settled down and had to make some adjustments to put him back to a behind-the-ball player. And so that's how we had to feature him more in this game, and then a little bit on some third downs at defensive end. But you're exactly right. You've nailed it on the early part of the game. And I think if it had stayed in that way, he would have stayed, working some outside linebacker and what we call our base defense. And then as we got into playing into our nickel packages, then he moved back behind the ball, and then some third downs he rushed. So it was kind of one of those culminations where he did a little bit of everything. And but that's kind of what the game plan called for based on what they were doing in this game.
He said he wasn't happy with his efforts. On film, was he being too hard on himself?
I think it was, he just wants to impact the game so much. And so we were referring this earlier, you can't force that sometimes. And when the plays come to you, you've got to be able to deliver. And they'll come to you. And I think one of the big lessons we've learned from Randy so far, first game back after he missed the Charger game, he played it extremely hard, and against Philadelphia had some holding penalties, but not the production. And the next game against Carolina, he did. Against the Giants, same effort, didn't have the sacks, and in this game he did. So I think you're not always going to have the production in every game. It'd be nice to do that, but you got to stay consistent in your approach. And so for him, not being able to impact the game, you can sense, frustration or a big hit or a sack or, something that could change the game. And so he has the speed to do that, the quickness to do that. So when you don't, it can be a little, like I'm accustomed to doing that, and I didn't get to do that.
What did you like about what Chauncey was able to do recovering the fumble? And did you learn anything about his instincts that you hadn't already seen?
Well, we liked one that he got it. We got on some of the other guys for some blocking into that spot. I said, we can get Chauncey 55 yards, And so Donovan almost knocked him down, and Randy was celebrating. So we had some fun with it in the meeting rooms about it. But I thought this is a really versatile and smart young player. I think he and Osa are really ahead of the curve in terms of young guys, their maturity, their knowledge to pick things up. And I think as you're going to see Osa, you've seen him grow, and I think you're going to see the same thing with Chauncey, in this next block of games. We really, this was a 6-game block. And we got another one coming for about another 6 games. Sometimes use quarters, sometimes use blocks. And so I think we'll see some improvement again with Chauncey on this next lap through.
You've mentioned Tristan several times in the last few weeks. What are your expectations for him?
Well, I thought the quickness that he has inside, that's, him coming out and what I saw. So another interior nickel rusher. And so I'm excited to get him back and Gallimore back and to see what that combination looks like. It's Watkins and Digazua, and how do they add to it. And if we get the rotation of those 7 or 8 guys like I think we can, I think that's when we'll be at our best. And we're not there yet, but when we do get to that spot, I'll be excited to see how we can feature those guys.
Following up on that, the run defense, how do you assess where the run defense?
Hold on 1 second, please.
Sorry, how do you assess where the run defense is, and do you see it as part of that work in progress that you were just referring to?
Why we had as much as we did?
Yes, but also in general. Are you happy with the way the run defense is?
I would say there's parts of it that I am, and there's parts of it that I say we still need to improve upon. And I would hope in this next 6 weeks we certainly see that. I certainly feel like we have enough variation of coverages and guys to fit into the runs. In this last game, I didn't like obviously the first play that went for a long one and explosive, but by and large I'm pleased with where we're at of going on the run game. I'd just like to see us knock down some of these explosives that happened. Okay, now I'm ready for you on the conference call.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hard to hear mine. Regarding the end of the coverage zero that you discussed earlier, how as a play caller do you get a feel for when the right time is to pull that out of your bag? And is that something that you've refined over the course of your play calling career?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I would say there's always a moment that you feel to say, okay, this is that time that you've got to go. And you can't just read the next play off the call sheet. Some scenarios call for moments that you got to go, be bolder and take a shot. And that was one of those times to do that. But there's not a method behind it other than just the feel of the game. Sometimes it may be who's in. You may say, okay, they've got a blocking tight end and a back. This is they're going to max protect. That's not the time that you want to go into a zero blitz where they can block guys up. But if there's a down and distance that this is a time to take your shot, you better know when those moments are. And certainly at home, it's nice when the crowd's ripping and you're in a third down and 7 or 8 and they can't hardly hear anyway just because of the noise and how loud it is. Those are fun times to bring it to because it adds extra stress onto the quarterback. On the road, you better know this is one you've held on to and it calls for just for that moment and you do it. And sometimes you had something that you practiced during the week and you didn't even get to call it because the right time didn't even come up. So you practice it again the next week in terms that it may come back. And so for us, it just so happened that, in that moment, good time for us to go be aggressive was there.
It seems like players would enjoy that call. It seemed like they would enjoy all going downhill, at least in the pass rush. Are they ever in your ear about like, hey, let's call this. Are they eager for it?
That's one of the good benefits of being in the press box. If I'm on the field, I would definitely be, I got it, all right, I'll call it. But being in the press box, I just, if I need somebody, I'll call it down on a phone. But they don't generally call up to me and say, hey, how about it? So usually the call that I make is the alert. So if I may say it in the installation meeting, if this call comes up, here's when we'll use it. And so there may be a time, just the call alone may mean, okay, this is what Dan's thinking in this spot.
On that note,
Last one,
being up
guys.
in the press box, when you're changing packages as significantly as you said you were in this game, how different is that from a communication standpoint in your systems than just a typical play call, and what's that process look like?
It was more challenging because of the fact that so many of the things we had weren't on the call sheet. So I basically, just took a sheet of paper and folded it open and said, kind of put down some ideas and some things. And after the next series, before the coaches got, with the players, these are some calls we're going to feature, and this is how we're going to go about it. And by the time you get into the half, like I said, there was only 16 or 17 plays in the first half defensively, and so we didn't get to do a lot of that after the first 7 didn't go so well for us. So it was a small sample size before we went all together back at the half. And but I said I just got to give the players the credit. They're the ones that have to make the adjustments and the changes. For us as coaches, we have we have the stuff in the computer, but it's for them to know, hey, we didn't practice this week, but this is how we're going to go about it. All right, you guys have a good one. You're welcome. Safe travels. You guys have a good bye. See you.
You too.
What's going on? Missing a few, huh?
Yeah.
People like Boston or what?
Like the leg. Can you explain that chemistry that Dak has with CD, especially in a game like that yesterday, late in the game?
They're doing a phenomenal job. I think it goes back to the time they put in through the offseason, that when you get into those situations, they run routes they've ran a million times. They trust each other, and they just go for it.
We talked a lot during the week about what Belichick might do in this game. How did you assess how they challenge you guys schematically in the game?
Yeah, they did a number of things. Present us with various looks that you kind of had to adjust here and there. Thought our team did a really good job of just handling the adjustments throughout the game, and ultimately we probably started throwing a little bit as the game progressed. But the nice thing was then we were able to kind of get back to the run game as the game moved on. I think early in the game, a bunch of 1-yard runs, 2-yard runs, kind of, not the prettiest things in the world. And as the game wore on, post, play 50, we have a bunch of 8-yard runs and 9-yard runs. And I think we kind of found a nice little groove there.
On a related note, how do you, as a play caller, how do you balance, like, this isn't working, am I being stubborn, versus if we keep doing this, it'll work eventually?
I think that's a nice challenge that you always have, is not to just give up on something right away because it has minimal success early. Still, maybe we need to go a different direction within the run game, and we're constantly trying to find those places. I felt based off what they were presenting us. Obviously, we felt good about some passing opportunities, but we still needed some run game in there, and I thought it was important as the game progressed. Our guys started really finding a groove there in that second half with the run game. I thought that was big.
What was your initial thought when you found out that, or maybe you saw that Dak was in a walking boot?
Yeah, it's not the coolest look in the world for a quarterback, but I guess bye week's come at the right time. Usually, we always say that, very cliche, but maybe it comes in handy this week, and so we'll just let this thing play itself out, and we'll be just fine.
On a degree of, on a degree of difficulty scale, where do you rank Cedric Wilson's catch on that fourth down?
Ced's catch was incredible. I think it was pretty remarkable, big time play. Really good coverage. The guy was right there. Ball ended up being a higher throw, and he was able to go up and grab it and still get his feet in bounds. It was incredible.
What's the process for, I think people on the outside watching the game, it's late in the game and your receivers are playing well, and then all of a sudden Malik Turner's in the game. How do you figure out that rotation, and just talk a little bit about even having the confidence to put in a Malik Turner late in the game like that when he hasn't played?
I would say the challenges of those situations is just, we were on the ball for a number of plays there just because the clock was moving, so we're not going to substitute in any way. And, Malik's the guy we feel very comfortable with. He had a bunch of catches in Seattle. He made a bunch of big plays in Seattle before he got here. He's a really, really good receiver. We're fortunate to have him in that, kind of fifth role or, whatever it may be. We feel very comfortable with him. And so obviously those other guys have been in for a number of plays. He hopped in there. We feel very comfortable with him. Preseason when he popped in there, played great, and so we got some amazing depth in that position.
Sorry, hold on a second. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. Fix this stuff, man.
Guessing red's not good.
No, I'm trying to get unmute the. You guys hear us?
It's a big button.
Yeah, we do that. There we go. Nice job.
It's a mute button. What's up, guys? How's Boston?
Kellen, obviously the number one goal is to win, but when you hear that your offense had more yards than any Bill Belichick defense has ever given up, and that Dak threw for more yards than any, what's going through your mind, and what do you think worked so well to get those numbers?
I would say it's a credit to our guys' resiliency. There's a lot of adverse situations in that particular game, and it was really awesome really to watch in reflection when you watch the film as to how many times we end up in a 1st and 20, and then the next play we get 20 yards and we're in a first down, and we get another penalty, and maybe it is, or a negative play, and then bounce right back and we handle it. And so our guys just kept going, and I thought it was awesome to see, and our guys responded really well.
Mike Churchill had an outstanding 1st and 20 offense. What is the mindset in those plays? And you've got Dak rebounding them, but how can you avoid getting in those situations in the future?
I would say obviously there's a patience element of that. You're not going to usually get all 20, and so be patient with it. At the same time, Dak, I think, in multiple occasions was able to buy some time. Maybe the pass rush wasn't as prominent in that game, and so he's able to kind of escape, buy some time. And he found guys that were kind of getting into what we call scramble drill, finding their plays, and shoot, at that point it's basically basketball on grass or on turf in that scenario. And so guys are finding the open lanes and getting open.
You look at the goal line plays from yesterday on tape. How do you evaluate that whole situation there, especially when Dak's reaching over and those kinds of things?
You definitely evaluate it. Obviously, it's something that has creeped up on us a couple times now, and so it's frustrating, obviously, from all standpoints. Everyone a part of it. You're going to learn from it. Maybe if we do go down this scenario, is there something else we'd like to do? Obviously, these bye weeks are awesome scenarios to kind of go through a self-scout, self-reflection standpoint, and felt like we're as close as you possibly could be, I guess, in a couple of those scenarios, in the third down scenario in particular. And so the fourth down, thought their guy made a phenomenal play, hitting the ball, and obviously something we're going to continue to look at. We got to find a way, and I feel very comfortable and confident that we'll find it.
The game winner was thrown from the 35, I think, which is approaching makeable field goal range. What's the conversation there of like, are we looking for a field goal? Are we looking to end this thing right now? Just what's that dialogue?
35, certainly that kind of right there situation. I felt like we try and be a little bit aggressive there, maybe see if we can get a big play one more time after that, maybe chip away at it and put ourselves in a position to have as manageable of a field goal as we could. But at that point, I thought we were running the ball well. We kind of had that run game and play action off of it, kind of complementary plays going there for late in the fourth and in that overtime period. And so it was a play we had ran a few plays earlier. Felt like there was maybe more to it, and so we went back to it one more time, and CD was able to get open over the top.
Has Dalton received more attention from a defense than he did yesterday, and what did the way the Patriots played him say about his development?
Dalton's been having a phenomenal season. I think defenses more and more are recognizing those things, and so we got a number of guys who we feel very comfortable with getting the football to him. I think there was maybe potentially a little bit of attention drawn to him in a few scenarios, certainly when we watched it on film, and so other guys had opportunities, and I think that'll continue to go, and that'll be kind of the back and forth that a season takes. Guys start taking away other people. Okay, other people need to step up and take advantage of opportunities, and then it kind of comes full circle, and that's the history of a season.
Dak was really good as a rookie. It's probably easy for us to forget that he has a lot to learn back then. What's it been like for you to just watch him grow, and how good is he playing right now?
Yeah, playing as high of a level as anyone in the NFL. He's doing a tremendous job. Obviously, like all quarterbacks, each and every year you're growing. There's no better lesson than through experience, and so he's played a lot of football over time, and I think where he's at right now is really, really special. I think just his command and presence and confidence within the offense, the confidence that everyone has collectively, and the command that he has out there on the field is second to none.
That collective confidence, you know a little something about what it feels like for an offense when they totally believe in the quarterback and everything's clicking and everything's hot. Can you describe what that feeling is like throughout the group and as it grows throughout several weeks?
I think the confidence is seen really through adversity a lot of times when we have those penalties, when we have little ups and downs, we miss opportunities in the red zone, and guys don't miss a beat. They don't get frustrated. Obviously, none of us are happy with results that are negative, but guys are just resilient. They're ready for the next one. They feel confident that, okay, we didn't get this one, but the next one's ours, and you can just feel that throughout the game. Even going into halftime, you're down. Hey, we're right there. This is our second half. Let's take it over, and let's control what we can control and go for it. So,
I don't know if you were aware of what Troy said last week about just from his view, he senses that you and Dak is like him and Norv Turner back in the day, back in those Super Bowl years. How seamless is that relationship? How much in sync are you guys? And is that why we're seeing some of what we're seeing offensively?
I think for Dak and I, obviously, we've spent a lot of time together, most importantly, through the years. And so we've had a lot of football conversations. We've discussed a lot of things, gone through a lot of scenarios. And so anytime you're around someone for that long of time, I think there's a lot of things that are naturally built in that we can make adjustments throughout the game. Our coaching staff's in a similar situation. We got the same staff this year. Last year being the same staff, and so we're at a point, I think, where so many people are on the same page. We're able to make adjustments throughout games, and guys can communicate really well. And I think we're in a special spot.
On that note of the broadcast, when you're watching film throughout the week or on a Monday after the game, how much are you listening to the broadcast, if at all? And if you're listening, are you hearing everything Tony's saying about you and that type of stuff?
We don't listen to the broadcast. Our film's a little bit different angle. It's the silent one. It's very boring. It's not exciting like everyone else gets to watch on TV. But we do have coaches who view that film just to see if there's any information, because obviously the audio is getting better and better, almost too good, I should say, for the sake of quarterbacks. There's a lot of things that you can hear throughout those things, and so we're constantly keeping tabs of what's being said so we can make adjustments because other teams obviously are going to do the same thing.
It seems like almost every time they show you, though, he's talking about how you're going to be a head coach next year, and it's just basically
Tony?
Tony, it's a done deal. Have you heard about that from anybody, and what are your thoughts on you saying that?
Oh, Tony. I love Tony. I have no thought to that. That's a long ways away.
Is it easy to stay focused on what's at hand with that kind of talk going on out there?
There's a lot of work that goes into each week, and after that work's done, I kind of want to go see my wife and kids. So that's about all the time we have.
That's how you stay neutral, because the players talk a lot about that yesterday. Stay neutral during time. So is that how you?
Neutral's been our theme, and I think it's the biggest thing for all of us. That there's ups and downs throughout a season. There's ups and downs throughout a game. Certainly, that game had plenty of ups and downs, and you're also going to be challenged when you have maybe a number of penalties that occur to stay neutral. It challenges all of us, but you just got to clean slate each play, each game, each day, and I think we're in a good place.
This is a pretty big picture question, so I'm sorry, but people have a strong opinion when a team goes for it on 4th and 1 from their own 34, good or bad. What was your process of kind of coming around on the analytics of those types of decisions? Was it always there? Did you develop it? And then how does that work with Mike and the way that he thinks about it and being willing to do stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say obviously, there's the analytics component, which is awesome. Obviously, everyone's really kind of embraced that world, and then there's the components of the game plan and the confidence in us to execute in those situations. And those are situations that not all of them are going to work out in our favor. We feel confident and comfortable. I think the way our defense and offense and special teams, everyone complements each other, that sometimes those aren't going to go our way. We want them to always go our way, and we're going to keep presenting ourselves opportunities like that, and we'll see where it takes us.
You're a younger guy. You obviously had a long playing career yourself. You feel like that comes more naturally to younger players than maybe older coaches or players that have been used to a different way of doing things in the past?
It's a great question. I'd say probably not ideal to ask the question about some of the other approaches, but I think really we've presented ourselves and we practice those situations a lot. We talk about those situations a lot. I don't think our guys are surprised when we go for it on 4th down, because that's kind of our approach. We're going to be aggressive, and when we feel like we got opportunities that we feel good about, we're going to go for them.
How do you gauge that from the analytics say this, my gut says this, and Dak says let's go, let's try it? How do you manage all that?
Yep, it's that. Piecing it all together, and there's a play clock going on, and there's 40 seconds. So obviously that's the component of this thing. They're challenging. Sometimes you don't even know if the spot's, still kind of weaving and trying to figure out if it's a foot or inches and all that sort of stuff. And so a lot of decisions have to happen fast, and we do as much as we can beforehand to be prepared for those situations that we feel comfortable. Any opportunity we get to go for it.
Amari's caught some low passes, including one I think at the end of the first quarter yesterday. Are those more the ball was thrown a little lower than you'd like? It's partially, Amari is more likely to catch it and avoids the interception risk, or what's going on there?
Great question. Probably something maybe be fair if I studied it from that perspective. I know a couple of them off the top of my head. I think there were some defenders in a particular area that we felt like, Dak felt most comfortable putting it in that position a little bit lower, so avoided any of the. There's a couple tip balls early in the game. Felt like it was a very comfortable position to get him. He got the first down, avoided any sort of other hands from the opposing team, and be a good one to dig into.
Do you have any particular challenge to find a way to work Gallup back in when he is ready, considering how well Cedric's played?
It's a fun task for us, I would say. We'd be really excited when we get the opportunity to have Michael back out there. We got guys who've been playing some phenomenal football, and that's the challenge of this thing, get everyone back involved. We're going to be excited to get Michael out there. At the same time, Ced's earned himself some opportunities as we go, and our balancing act is that unselfish play that everyone's going to get opportunities over the course of this season. There's going to be games. Michael's going to have some big game here in the next few weeks. Ced's going to have another one. That's just the cycle of this season for us.
Where is the red zone offense right now relative to where you want it to be?
Yeah, it's not good. To give it that. As I think it's an awesome opportunity right now in the bye week to just reflect on it, see where we're at, see what opportunities we can go. I think we're really, really close. Obviously, ultimately, we're not where we want to be, but we'll continue to assess it and find ways to improve.
How much do you factor in going forward, making sure the ref can see the ball?
It's a very fair question. I think it's maybe something we'll dig on, see if there's something else that is out there. We'll look into it.
All right, thanks, Kellen.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that it?
No, Coach Fassel is about to come up right here.
Oh, okay.
Hey, everybody. All right, doing good.
John, why don't we start off with the block punt? Why did y'all decide to go for it then, and how do you think it turned out?
Yeah, it turned out really good. We went for it because that was kind of the one we went into the game with, saying this is the one we want to call. And the situation actually worked out pretty good. It was, 4th and short, and they were on their punt team on late, and it was kind of our bread and butter call, if you will, for that game. So it was a pretty calculated shot at, we feel good about this, and we kind of knew what we were going to attack. And for Giff, I was so happy for him. I mean, a guy that just didn't hesitate and just said, I'm going for it, and super proud of him for being aggressive and going for it.
I think they said on the broadcast that maybe you all had already seen a look that kind of set that up. Had you seen a look already in the game, or was it more just particular?
I think that was their first punt of the game, but we deep dive into all the film, from obviously this season. We look at every snap of the previous season. We feel that all our shots are pretty calculated. Nothing is just random. Let's just see what happens here. Nothing's really reckless, and we felt like we were lined up. We had good gap control. We were rushing it from every gap, and it wasn't a really complex deal. But the guys were really just in tune with making sure we line up on side, stayed on side, a 4th and short. The snapper is really good at trying to head bob and get you to jump off sides or lean into the neutral zone. So there was a lot happening kind of undercover that made it go, and it was good. It was really fun for our guys to make a play like that. And a great game. I mean, I'm a huge fan, like probably all you guys are, and just what a great football game. Great football game.
For you personally, though, knowing like Bill Belichick and how much emphasis he puts on his special teams, does it executing a play like that against his special teams, does that mean any more to you at all, personally?
No. I mean, we know that, Coach Belichick always has a really, really good special teams unit, and they do this year too, but it doesn't mean any more than if it was another game, than if it was Carolina or New York or Philly or any other team we played. Yeah.
So you get more reps than CD on returns, punt returns? And if that was the case, why more Sutter than CD in those situations?
It was still buddy system football.
A couple of them were inside the 50 punts that said usually goes back there, and he likes to fair catch that. CD was back there for the one that we blocked. So anytime we rush it, we also try to return it. We feel like we can get a good shot at that too. So I really, like I talked about a couple weeks ago, just honestly just let those guys just buddy system it. Whoever's like feeling they got the hot hand or they got a little bit more endurance or gas in the tank at that time, then they just take it.
On the muff, did he lose it, or in terms of his head, or it was in his hands?
Yeah, it was in his hands, and it was kind of a unique one because most of the time in that field position, you don't really return the football. But we did a pretty good job of blocking the outside guys, and so it was a unique one for Sed. His mindset was, I'm going to fair catch it, but he felt like I got a shot maybe to return this, and then the guy kind of jumped on him pretty quick. So it was more on the catch, more than like getting stripped or anything like that. And then he was sharp enough to jump back on it. Nashawn Wright and Sed ended up getting it, but he wanted to go with it. And I told him in the meeting this morning, I respect the fact that you guys want to compete. We got to be smart, but I respect the fact that you guys want to compete. And I don't ever want to take that away from you.
With Greg's 51-yarder, was it the way he hit it, or what went wrong with that, and why did you still have the confidence in him on the 49-yard?
Yeah, the 51-yarder, I asked him this morning and last night, obviously, and he just said he just mishit it. He said when he hit it, it didn't hit the right spot on his foot, which is why it pulled and kind of helicopter spun. And then right after that, he came off the sideline, and he was in a great frame of mind, and I said, you know how this goes. Be ready for another one here in a couple minutes. And sure enough, it happened. And the confidence that I have is just from the experience I have with him. We've been through those before where, he might miss one and you say, hey, it's a long game, or, we're going to get a stop. Be ready in a couple minutes to go hit a bigger one. And he always does it. He always does it when it's a normal kick, you can count on him. But when it's the critical kick, I always feel like he's going to make it.
Does a kicker out of his peripheral vision see the guy coming in? Like, that guy almost could have blocked it, I thought, if he kicked it with his normal swing.
Yeah. It's a great question. I asked him, and he said no, but I think that kickers sometimes feel that, because we had one against the Chargers, I think, where C.J. Goodwin almost got it, and their kicker pulled it. The one I think he hit off the upright maybe for the Chargers. And I think kickers feel that a little bit. And that guy that New England had, number 29, is really good at it. And so we ID'd him all game as a guy that we have to block, but he's still so good at it. Sometimes it's hard to get him. And whether or not the kicker says it, there might be something that they do feel that makes him just kind of pull it away a little bit from that guy. And sometimes that equates to a miss. Yeah.
Bigger picture question for you. The number of punts is down pretty significantly, particularly this year. I think it may have been declining for a year or two before. Why do you think that is?
I think it's the amount of times teams are going for it on fourth down. Yeah. And that's not a fact. I think just, the amount of times that teams are going for it on fourth down, I think has got to be way up. I don't have numbers on that, but that probably is why the amount of punts are down.
So logic would say that maybe analytics are the reason, because analytics are telling teams when to go for it on fourth down more. What do you think?
I would say so. Teams are going for it more on fourth down. Maybe kickers have a little bit better range where instead of the ball at the 40, maybe you'd punt it, you'd hit a 58-yard field goal. So I think that might be, it's probably more of just going for it on fourth down, which is cutting down the numbers on punt.
As a man who does the protection drills, ball protection drills, what's the teaching moment with Dak there when he's reaching up the goal line?
It's a great question. We see a lot of film of players that reach for the goal line one-handed, which we don't like. We see a lot of players that reach for the goal line two-handed, which is a competitive play where if it's fourth down, you got to reach, ideally with two. And it was a fourth down play, and he had to reach for two. But defenses really are so good, and we show clips every Thursday in the team meeting, about an 8-minute, around the league takeaway tape of defenses getting really good at timing it up when that runner is reaching for that goal line in a really competitive situation. The defensive guys are going for one last kind of Hail Mary stab at knocking this football out. And so what happened last night to Dak is actually very common. It was a great play by them, and it seemed like he was right on that line. I don't know. I'm biased, I know. But to answer your question, I think if it was first or second down, we'd probably be against reaching for the goal line. But on fourth down, whether it's line to gain or goal line, you gotta compete and reach the football for the line to gain or goal line.
When you talk about how great yesterday's game was, do you appreciate it in the moment, or is it after the game where it kind of sets in for you?
there's some games like yesterday, I was in the moment thinking like, this is a great game. Just being a part of it, you look around and it's dark, but the lights are on, and the entire stadium, all the fans were standing pretty much the whole game, and the back and forth and the competition and the penalties and the ebbs and flows. There was like 4 games in one. A lot of times you reflect after the game like, that was a pretty good game. But there's been a few games I've been in where I've been in it like, this is a great football game. This is just a great football game. How lucky am I or are we to be standing on the sideline, actually being a part of it and having something to do with it. But that was, and I'd say the same thing if we came away with the loss. I would have thought that was a great football game. I'm sure glad we won, but that was a great football game.
On a related note, fans and sometimes even players are famous for like not being able to watch big pressure kicks, turning away, whatever. Does your expertise in that area make that any easier? Or when Greg is out there for a kick like that, what is that like for you?
It's pretty awesome. To be, I usually crowd the sideline as much as I can, and I move back just a little bit just so I'm not in the referee's, sideline. But to be on the sideline and to watch those kicks, I'm eyeballing really who we're IDing in protection. So it's not just a moment where I'm just sitting back there as a fan kind of looking at it. I'm looking at how are we protecting versus the guys we've ID'd in protection. But I've been on the sideline for a couple of kicks. Greg's a couple of years ago in the NFC Championship game, the Charger one this year. There's been quite a few of them where you're on the sideline like, man, this is what an opportunity, what a huge moment. Come on, Greg, nail this. And then, hey, right side, man, take care of 29. And it all happens so fast. And you're like, it's just, it's really cool. Because I think hopefully everybody knows that, we're coaches and we're players, but we're also fans. So to just be part of all football games, but special ones like last night is pretty good honor.
Fans had some varying opinions when you said after week 2 that you were giving them what they wanted, being aggressive, trying to block the punt. Did you feel like you kind of were giving them what they wanted yesterday?
Yeah, no. That was stupid what I said a couple weeks ago. But yeah, every call is its own. Like I said just a little bit ago, they're all calculated, and I like to think that they're for a very particular reason and attacking a very particular spot, not just throwing something out there and just being, let's see what, But I was really happy for Giff. He's worked really hard. He got an assist with a couple other guys. I won't talk about it schematically, but everybody kind of sets everybody else up. So it was really a team thing, and Giff made a heck of a play. And it's pretty awesome.
Had he blocked one like that in practice before? I mean, how close to that have you gotten in practice before?
In practice, you don't really block kicks. You work on your get off, and you work on, knocking arms down and kind of twisting and turning. But when it comes live game, the way he blocked it was, really clinic tape. He put his eyes right at the foot. He put his hands right out there. But to be honest with you, we don't really practice that because it's so rare that, we spend time on other things. So for him to do that was just a great show of an instinctive football player who happened to, smell an opportunity, and he went for it. And he used a technique that you'd like to think is clinic and teaching, but really, honestly, it's not. He got home and he went for it, and very proud of him for it because he's been through a lot. He's been injured a couple of times in his career. He's been deactivated quite a few times last year, and he was this first game. He's the guy that just keeps overcoming, and you can count on him. And when he's in there, you feel like you got a better chance to win with him in the game.
It's often said that there's a fraternity that exists between NFL specialists, between other kickers and punters and so forth around the league. Does that exist too for special teams coaches and coordinators? And if so, do you have any thoughts when you see Rich Bisaccia, someone who's been a long time special teams coach in this league, get an opportunity to be a head coach and then get a win as he did on Sunday?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think special teams coaches have a really unique fraternity that is pretty cool for the fact, let's say, offensive line coaches, they have a really cool fraternity too, but offensive line coaches don't compete against each other. They compete against defensive line guys. So the unique thing about special teams coaches is the fraternity is really tight, but we actually compete against each other, like on game days. And when you see, and I texted Coach Bisaccia that night that he was named the interim and just said, good luck, coach, kick ass, man. We're all rooting for you. Because all the special teams coaches are always rooting for the special teams coaches who get an interim opportunity. So it's a unique bond or fraternity because you compete against each other. You know, in the off season, how you doing, man? Great to see you. You know, we all go out to dinner at the combine, but then on game day, it's all right. Now it's game on, man. So yeah.
You've been in that position as an interim. And I was just curious, do you feel like that's, I don't know, an underrepresented pool of head coach talent in this league, given how special teams coaches have to address, you know, full room and really touch every level of the locker room with their presentations?
Yeah, you're asking a biased guy. I think there's a great untapped pool of, you know, potential possibly head coach candidates, at least to get interviewed, because you know, your relationships are with the whole team. You dress a team a lot. You know, you're dealing with the 48 and the 53 all the time. The game management part of it, you're always in tune with. And when I had the opportunity, you know, it was a really cool experience. And whenever it seems like there's something that happens during the season, the special teams coach is the guy that they go to be the interim. You know, then after the season, then obviously that changes. But I hope Coach Bisaccia does great, man. He's a great guy. I know he was here for quite a few years, and he just does a great job, so I'm rooting for the Raiders.
Which part of transitioning from special teams coach to interim coach surprised you most at that time? And I know you texted him good luck, but what would you tell someone going through that transition to be aware of or be ready for?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good question. I don't know if there's much more, honestly. I think you just keep being yourself, and I mean, you talk to the team all the time anyways. I don't think there's a big transition, you know, other than you got to put your hands a little bit more on the offense and defense, but you're kind of doing that anyways. Just, you know, he's not calling plays, so I think just being yourself, getting team meetings prepared and run, and, you know, keeping it simple and letting them roll. Kind of the special teams way anyways.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
All right, thanks you guys. Thanks.
Have a good one. So, assistant coaches will start.
This is the Miller Lite Cowboys Hour.
Supported by Albertsons and Omni Hotels and Resorts.
Brought to you by
Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. It's Miller time. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys. Choose VA. Veterans get the benefits you've earned. Visit choose.va.gov. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
now your hosts, Shannon Gross and Brad Sham.
And welcome everybody to the Cowboys Hour. It's Victory Monday.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's the weakest Let's Go. It's a 5-game winning streak. That is the weakest Let's Go.
You've been saying it so often, it's taken a little bit out of me every week. Let me try it again,
Is it
Brad.
too much winning for
no,
you?
let me reset. Let's go!
Now we're
Let's
talking.
Go. All right.
Now we're talking,
There we go.
especially considering that our very special guest this week is Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
This is.
I thought I was have to sit in a room with you by myself. I'm thrilled to death.
No, we wouldn't.
I was dreading it all day until I turned the corner.
We would not subject you to that quite yet. And we welcome all of those of you who are joining us wherever you are on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, and those of you who are watching us whenever during the week you're watching us on DallasCowboys.com. That's the little box there, Mike. Wave to the little box. There you go. You're on that.
There we go.
And to those of you who come out to join us on the South Concourse of the Star, of the Ford Center at the Star, welcome. Thanks for coming. Great to have you here. It's Victory Monday, by the way.
Hey, let's go! Let's go! Let's go. There we go. We got about 8 of them in there, Brad.
We saved some because I think it's not the last Victory Monday of the year.
I'm with
that
you.
would be the plan. So we always look for an opportunity like this to be able to get to know someone like the head coach. Plus, I believe tonight's the night of the rookie dinner, isn't it?
Exactly. This is the first time we've had it in my time here, so I'm looking forward to hear the aftermath.
What do you suppose goes on at the? Which, by the way, it's not just rookies; it's the veterans kind of conduct the thing, right?
Absolutely, and everybody's involved, and it's a pricey night for the young men, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of laughs.
Yeah. Okay. So we always do a show going into and coming out of the bye, but tonight was just the perfect night to have Coach McCarthy. And the other thing, as I was saying to Mike before we went on, is that thanks to COVID, thank you, COVID, you haven't had a chance to really kind of get into the community at all. It's been unusual in every possible sense, and I'm guessing that you just kind of knowing what your personality is like, you would like to be out and connecting with people a little bit, wouldn't you?
I mean, that's what my wife Jessica and I, that's what we're accustomed to, in the past. But frankly, this was my walking path last year as I walked over to 12 every day, and and basically this is where I don't think I left Frisco, Texas, actual Frisco, the Star, probably 6 months into my stay here. So. No, it's definitely, we bought a home in Allen, and the kids are in school, and we have our 2 youngest are here in school, and we have 5 children. My oldest is in Los Angeles. She just turned 30. I feel old as hell, and then our oldest son Jack is a freshman at University of Colorado, and George is a freshman at SMU. So it's great having him right down the road, so he comes home for dinner often,
and laundry.
Laundry, of course, yeah. And he check his mail
Yeah,
every day too. So.
Right.
But then our 2 youngest, you have a 4th grader and a 7th grader. So life is good. It's back to normal for us.
It's good. It's great. It's good to have you finally been able to get your arms around the community and vice versa. And as I'm sure you are finding out, it's a little bit the same everywhere, and then those of us who've been here for a while think it's a little different here. Jerry Jones always likes to say that when the Cowboys really get winning, it's kind of like throwing lighter fluid on the floor of a small room and throwing in a match. Everything goes crazy, and I'm interested in how it feels to you've been around championship teams. You've been around teams that looked maybe good, turned out not to be so good, and so you know what a good team looks like. How do you know what you're looking at?
Well, you mean team-wise or just the whole energy lighter fluid analogy?
Yeah,
I mean,
both.
so-
Take the whole thing. We got an hour. Take the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I'll say this: the